Welcome to Kew, or better said, the Tropical Nursery at Kew. It's also known as the hidden gem of Kew, because in here, this is where we have got 16,000 accessions of plants, covering about 10,000 species. Of these species, we have about roughly 250 families of plants that we're covering, with about 2,000 genera. A particular interest for us, because the purpose of this tropical nursery is to supply material for scientific research, for conservation, as well as for plant material for the display houses in order to educate the public. So conservation is something that is a really big theme here in the nursery. And so the first plant that I wanted to show you is Trochiteopsis ebenus. Trochiteopsis ebenus is an endemic species in the mauve family to Centellina. Centellina, as such, has been, due to overgrazing in the 18th century, virtually destroyed in terms of vegetation. So that particular species here has regarded as being extinct in the wild. But luckily, in 1980, a botanist called Quentin Cronk, who is associated with our Kew research here, rediscovered two plants down on a cliff in Centellina. They sent a volunteer down that securely rescued material of both specimens. And these were brought back to the collection here. Over the course of many, many years, that seed material was then successfully returned to Centellina, and these days you find the plant again in the wild, in its habitat. Other than that, in Zone 1, one very big aspect that we're covering here at the moment is our temperate house restoration. The temperate house restoration, it's the biggest Victorian glasshouse that we have got in the world. It's being restored because of the facilities being old, so that meant that all the plants had to be decanted. And all the plants that you can see here on my right are all plants that once upon a time were in the temperate house, but consequently now live here in the tropical nursery until they go back onto display in 2018. What is quite interesting about these is that we're using some very special pots here that we call air pots. These air pots help the plants to become a more fibrous root system, and consequently will resolve into a better establishment of the plants within the beds when they go into the temperate house.
This is called Jim. His ancestor would have come from the Himalayas, among other places. And Jim's been selected by breeders for his beautiful flowers, large flowers, his colour and his scent. It's a bit like a kennel name for a dog, but yes, it's got to be something snappy and memorable that people will want to buy. We grow our species orchids on trees because if we were to put them on a live tree, the orchid might actually outlive the tree, and having problems with rare orchids falling off rotting wood is not something you want. So we actually make the trees out of concrete. The orchids we then attach by putting nails into the concrete and wrapping moss around the orchid's roots, and then stringing ladies' tights between the nails in order to allow the roots to get a purchase.